Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a new episode of Flesh Wound Farce, where we review and discuss your and our favorite comedy films. This is the world's first and only combination trivia host and professional wrestling announcer of Chilean descent that currently resides in Southern California, Ozzy V. And with me, as always, on this program, first in the Northern California Bay Area, world famous juggler Greg Larson. How you doing, Greg?
Fantastic. How about yourself, Ozzy?
I'm not too great right now. We'll get into that shortly.
Okay.
Also with us, ladies and gentlemen, Flesh Wound producer Todd. How you doing, Todd?
Are you okay, Ozzy? What's
I'm
going on?
fine. What's going on? We'll find out exactly what's going on.
Oh, I'm
Right,
concerned,
this week-
Ozzy.
Yes, no, you should be. We'll get into this shortly. So, ladies and gentlemen, this week we are reviewing and discussing 1941, which was actually a comedy spectacular or self-billed comedy spectacular.
Yes.
Rated PG, released on December 14th, 1979. Todd, do you have a trailer available?
Yes, sir. Let's
Okay.
roll it.
All right.
1941,
You picked it.
the California coast. The Japanese had just bombed Pearl Harbor. A nation's heroes were on the alert.
Look, you guys are Japs up!
The dummy's right.
California could be next.
What did I shoot there? I don't know!
This is war.
Oh, God.
A country's honor was at stake. The lives of millions would be protected by a brave few. This is their story.
Excuse us, ma'am.
From the director of Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Stop that plane!
The one he
most
wants you to forget
explosive
about.
comedy spectacular ever filmed.
What the hell do you people think you're doing?
Dan Aykroyd, Ned Beatty, John Belushi, Lorraine Garrett, Murray Hamilton, Christopher Lee, Tim Matheson, Toshiro Mifune, Warren Oates, Robert Stack, Treat Williams,
I can assure you, there will be no bombs dropped here.
Boy, that was fun!
Universal Pictures and Columbia Pictures present an 18 production of a Steven Spielberg film. 1941.
Sayonara, sucker!
Okay. So that was the trailer for 1941, again released on December 14th, 1979, rated PG with a runtime of 1 hour and 58 minutes. Just about 2 hours of time lost, I guess you could say. Directed by Steven Spielberg. Yeah, no, it definitely feels like time lost. Written by Robert Zemeckis, Bob Gale, and John Millis. Sorry?
Guess someone kind of tried to warn you, but someone didn't.
You did, but we have a job here, and we have to watch these movies so that way people watching us can say, "Oh, thank God, I don't need to watch
Remember,
that."
you said this, Ozzy.
I know I said this for one of these reasons. I mean, we can't just review the good ones. We got to review some of the bad
Again,
ones.
Remember that.
But Private School has been reviewed on this episode or in this.
We need a
on the
little
show,
bit more
okay?
private school around.
Lost Skeleton of Cadavra was reviewed on this.
We need a
Ski
little bit more
Patrol,
Lost Skeleton.
Joysticks. The list goes on. But the thing about those movies is that Lost Skeleton is in a category of its own of like a 0 out of 5.
Like out of
But-
everything,
Hey.
like out of all of the movies we showed.
When you talk
that-
about, listen, no, but when you when I talk about them, like the movies that
Hey,
really annoy me.
just notice
Private
Lost
School,
Skeleton
okay,
2 was not in that category.
I
So
count the
only the
franchise as
original was-
one. No, I count the franchise as one. Do not do this, Greg.
It grew on
Okay,
him.
so don't. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Ski Patrol, Joysticks, Private School. While they were bad, at least they had inappropriate
be
humor. It was inappropriate humor. So you're like, oh my gosh, like it's like a train wreck, but at least they're trying to be edgy, or there's a reason why you can understand, like, oh, they just want to have nudity here. Like, okay, you understand it. But as I'm watching this movie, it seemed so clean. Like, I don't know, like it just seemed like a something that I would have found like a cartoon, I guess on Saturday morning cartoons, it would have been like a 22-minute cartoon, and it was just expanded into 2 hours and then turned into live action.
With a
N-
bunch of people who you expect a little bit more, kind of edgy humor with, we've
That's
seen a
that's
lot of
what
these
really threw
people.
me off
Yeah.
guard.
But you
It
got
felt like
Spielberg.
getting a BLT, or I'm sorry, a vegan BLT. That's what it felt like.
Ugh.
Exactly. Exactly. That is the feeling you need to know. That this movie will produce that feeling of vegan BLT. If I could give a vegan BLT award, this movie would be it.
Wow.
I mean, we just jumped into our initial thoughts. I didn't even finish with the who started. We saw. Well, I mean, we went through a list of
You can't forget
stars.
the producer forced upon actress Lorraine Gray. I mean, the only time she gets put in movies is because her husband owned the studio.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Although I will say that there was another. I mean, I honestly didn't. I this movie really discouraged me from trying to do a good job, right? Because at one point it's like I was like, oh, that's the gun dealer from Back to the Future Part 3. That's funny because Zemeckis. And then I went to write it down, and my brain was like, it's not worth the ink. Because that's what this movie felt like. It's like not worth the film it was printed on. It was unfortunate because if asked, we'll get to the rating shortly, but at least there was some sort of production value in terms of, okay, this was like a studio picture, so they at least tried to a certain degree to make it look good, as opposed to a feature that didn't have those abilities and just was terrible all around. I'm not going to say anything, but I will say that name has been mentioned previously on this episode earlier, a few minutes ago. But to conclude on the, sorry, go ahead, Todd.
No, I was just going to say about the look. I kind of felt like that was intentional, that they shot everything in studio to feel like it was still 1941 style of movie making, which made it look cheaper. That was actually one of the things I liked about it.
That's interesting.
Because like you can see straight up, like I'm like, okay, I know where that is at Universal, and then like the sets, like just the stuff that was there. I thought that was like one of the things I did like. It felt like it was trying to be the movie of that era, even if I didn't like the movie that they made. Because if you look at it, then look at the sets and stuff, it feels like when they made movies in the 40s and they were all filmed inside studios and they all look like sets.
And that would make things cheaper being filmed
Yeah.
inside a studio as opposed to on location, right?
Yeah.
So that the budget went on all the cast. It's like we could spend a whole bunch of money on the cast and just film it inside the whole time.
Well, even then, they're not, though. It's a bunch of, new. These people aren't who they were then.
That's what I was wondering. Like, how many of these were
still on their
big
ascent?
names? And that's hard when you're going back and looking at movies that are older.
Like
we look
Jennifer
at them
Aniston.
and-
Jennifer Aniston starring in
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Or no, I'm sorry, Leprechaun. Leprechaun. My bad.
To put it in perspective, Saturday Night Live was 3 years old at this point. Wasn't that 76? Or is that also 79?
Sounds about right.
Wow, just about to go on its 50th season too. They just
75th, 75. Okay, so where it was in its fourth year, so they were television, but late night 11:30 television. So it was, I mean, then with the three networks, it was different. They were still, but I mean, it's not like being a movie star, especially then.
Right.
A bunch of TV stars in a movie is actually a hindrance in this time frame.
Right. I felt that it was, to a certain degree, like all the scenes with Tim Matheson felt straight out of like what would be a sequel to Animal House. I felt like I was watching Otter and not whatever character he was named. And then also Bluto, I'm just going to say that because nothing differentiated that. Like if Bluto joined the military, there you go. Like, and he was assigned to Barstow or Baker. Was it Barstow? I think it was Barstow or Bakersfield.
It was Barstow, yeah.
This makes sense. It's like like those two specifically, because those were the only two that were in Animal House. It felt like they just continued those characters, and I don't know if that was intended to be the case. Like, hey, everybody remembers this from the year that came out, or the movie that came out last year. Let's try to just get those people back in the theater. Hopefully they'll come back to see them, and they'll be pleased that they're basically doing the same thing that they would have done in an Animal House sequel.
Which is
So,
funny because I was thinking Stripes with John Candy, but this was 2 years before.
yeah. Yeah.
So
I think Animal House was still hot,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that was a Universal release too. So I
Yep.
can totally see, like, hey, let's put Bluto and Otter in a movie and put some other people in it that I guess are kind of funny, and we'll have Spielberg direct it. It'll be fine. It just didn't feel like there was a
I love that-
coherent, like, overall story. Like it felt like similar to what would be like a sketch movie, how that's produced, but it just felt jumbled and just not really like together.
it's still that different style of comedy before like the 80s really kicked in.
Mhm.
And it's harder to go back and watch some of this stuff because you're just so used to a certain timing and style. Sometimes
Right.
it just clicked. So like this one had an uphill battle, I think, coming out the gate.
You
Yeah.
know, I don't know if I'm the one who should have the clip saying I don't understand humor, or I understand it a lot more, because I was having fun through this film, and I don't know, like, I think so. For me, this was like I watched this like first thing in the morning. With it's my first day off after a work week, starting my day, cup of coffee, great, like, and a movie. Now, I do have to say, I was excited because the cast, I'd never heard of this film and never seen it, and so seeing who was in it, I was like, all right, we're in for a good ride. And I'm enjoying it. Now, I do have to say, at one point, there was a moment where we were about an hour and a half in, and things kind of felt like they were wrapping up. And I was like, this must be the end or near the end. And I went to pause it to go grab myself another cup of coffee. And I was like, another half hour? Holy crap. What more do they have to do? So, like, time wise, yeah, I think they could have condensed it a little bit. But yeah, no, I don't know why there's so much hate outside of the time. But man, there were some fun moments.
Well, that seems like a perfect transition. Maybe you could tell us one of your favorite fun moments.
Well, so there were two moments that I have to say. Not one wasn't because of the movie itself, but when there was a dance scene happening, I'm sitting there with my coffee going, "Oh, I wish I was there with Ozzy." I knew that was gonna happen.
I'm watching it happen. I was like, "Are you a dance scene? No, come on!"
But actual, like, favorite moment, there's a moment where they're in a tank going through like this paint shop area. Dan Aykroyd like pulls down this, like, he's got like these oranges in front of it, and he's like starts acting like a bug, and it's so stupid and so ridiculous and out of left field that I was laughing so hard. It was a great way to start the day.
Todd?
I'm not just gonna say end credits. I'll tell you the part I liked. When it started, I was like, "Hey, that looks like the beach from Jaws." Hey, wait, that's the music from Jaws. Oh, okay, Spielberg. And then we just did the Jaws ripoff. That made me laugh, but yeah, that's yeah, that's probably my
Wait, you
favorite
didn't
part.
like the Hollywood? No?
Yeah.
Tiny bit cringy.
Oh yeah, 100% cringy. Like, it was a different time, but yeah.
Maybe that's what it was. But that wasn't the complete fault. I will say the one moment that didn't actually make me literally laugh out loud, the only time actually I can say, was the mother was saying, "I will not have guns in this house," and then the cannon goes through the door. And I was like, okay, and that was early on, so I was like, okay, let's see where this goes, and then just, oh man, swing and a miss, swing and a miss. I mean, I could tell that everybody in this movie was genuinely wanted to make it. Like, it didn't feel like Ocean's 12, where they were just there to get paid, and they knew they were getting there to get paid, and they knew that they didn't have to do anything in this movie for them to get their money. I
A
just got
true
a sense
sequel.
exactly, but you got a sense from these that they were trying to do the best with what they had. I felt, and it just didn't. It didn't click. It felt like oil and water. I don't know how to describe that, but that was unfortunately the only moment that brought me any joy, other than the end credits, as Todd was saying. So going to the rating for the movie when we're talking about out of 5, I am giving it a 2 out of 5 because while I didn't find it enjoyable, it was still a movie that was professionally produced. I saved my ones for Lost Skeleton of Cadabra.
How rude.
So just because it's
Wait, no, how rude? How rude? Hold on a second. How rude? How rude of me to say this movie's a 1 out of 5. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. But it's not rude for somebody to come up with 80 minutes of a piece of crap to make other people watch. That, my friend, is rude.
Well, I
Stephanie Tanner, rude.
well played.
I could see the fly to the trap. It was like, zzz, zzz.
Sitcoms, Ozzy, really?
Yeah, listen, I just talked about earlier how I was watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air earlier.
That'll come into play next week.
Right, exactly. Okay, so I had my rating there, 2 out of 5. Greg will save your rating for the last. Todd, can we go with yours?
Oh, I'm also 2 out of 5 either. The fact Christopher Lee is in this, I cannot give it anything less because Christopher Lee is the man. So
that is a fair point. Which reminder, we do eventually need to review Gremlins 2.
Isn't that for a certain holiday, sir?
Gremlins 2?
Yes, there's a speech in that one also that's tied to a holiday.
Oh man, we gotta wait till next February.
We do this every year. You got to remember.
All right, no, fine. Let's talk about this stupid movie.
Greg, what did you think? Since I was like checked out now.
Speaking of movies that we need to review, there's one that actually the title of the movie will encapsulate how Ozzy would feel if we had to do it. It's the Trail of the Screaming Forehead. Yes, it's another movie by the team of Lost Skeleton. But
I refuse. I'm saying right now, I'm not making any bets with you this season about any NFL anything. No bets at all. None.
I wouldn't bet on the Raiders either. So, I get it. I understand. I wouldn't have faith either, Ozzy.
You know what sucks? I don't think I can change Ozzy's headline. So I can't even asterisk him.
Oh,
only change his name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Moving on.
So I did have fun with this flick. Now, if I had watched it at night, if this was a movie that I was like settling down for the evening and I was like, let me get in and, enjoy a fun film, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much, but if I kind of treated it like a Saturday morning cartoon of like starting your day with a little ridiculousness and not too much seriousness. And so I think that's why I enjoyed it a little bit more. And plus I like some ridiculousness in general. I did feel it was a little too long. So there was parts, if it were cut down by that half hour or so, I think I would have given this a 4, but I'm gonna say I enjoyed it. Wasn't amazing, wasn't horrible, so I'll stay with the 3.5.
All right. Okay. I know it has its fans. I'm sure we'll have some in the comments. So
well, no offense, obviously, but I will say that
Ozzy said you're wrong. All of you who love it are wrong.
I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is that perhaps it's coincidence that this film cannot be streamed. It can only be rented or purchased. With all these companies trying to get as much content as they can.
But it can be streamed as Lost Skeleton, so...
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, they don't have the power Mr. Steven Spielberg has if he didn't want people to see this.
It's true. You're like, you don't even need to pay us for it. And just anybody watch it, please.
Yeah. All right. Well, that concludes our review of 1941. As I had just mentioned, this film is not available to be streamed, can only be rented or purchased from wherever you purchase your digital content. Do you gentlemen have anything else before we head out? Before I go into my generic trivia, general trivia announcement.
Do your spiel.
Go for it.
All right. Trivia this week happening Monday at the Rush Bar and Grill at 6:30 in Lake Forest. Tuesday at the Brewery in Placentia beginning at 7 o'clock. Wednesdays in Los Alamitos at Griffin's Grill beginning at 7:30. And every Thursday at the Honey Pot Meadery beginning at 7:30 as well. Free to play and prizes for the top winning teams. Did you guys have anything? I'm sorry, Todd. I apologize. It sounded like you had something, but you're like, go ahead.
No, I didn't know.
Okay. All right. Well,
I mean, I could promote this Wednesday, Flesh Wound Horror. Check it out. 5 new reviews. So there you
every
go.
Wednesday, if you're not at trivia, you should check out Flesh Wound Horror.
But you can also, when you get back from trivia, you can listen to it because it's on YouTube.
That's true. That's true. You can also do that.
I believe we're on before trivia, so you can do both. Listen to it on the way to trivia.
Listen to it on the way to trivia. It's a foolproof plan. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. We'll be back next week, not with Flesh Wound Farce, but with Flesh Wound Fist. As is the end of the month, we're coming back with an episode of Flesh Wound Fist where we will be reviewing and discussing the 1995 film Bad Boys, starring Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. Feel free to check out that episode. I know Todd is so excited. And you got to check out next week to see why he is so excited. Ladies and gentlemen, for world famous juggler Greg Larson and Flesh Wound producer Todd, I'm Ozzy V, and we'll see you next week right here on a brand new episode of Flesh Wound. It'll be Fist then, but this was Farce. Thank you so much. Have a good night.